I review a lot of 401ks for business owners, and technically most of them are fine, but they're financially inefficient. And today we're going to find out if yours is one of them. I'm Steven Nelson. I'm a partner and wealth advisor at Mills Wealth Advisors. And in this video, I'm going to show you why you might be missing out on thousands or hundreds of thousands inside your 401k. But before we go too far, we need to talk about the 5 main players inside the 401k. The first and most important one is the trustee and plan sponsor. This is typically the business owner who is the trustee and plan sponsor of the 401k. And as the trustee and plan sponsor, it is your job to make sure that all parts of the 401k are taken care of. Now, typically you can delegate these jobs to other professionals, but unless you're choosing a fiduciary to take care of this, it still falls on you. And a fiduciary is someone who is going to do that responsibility, and they're going to take some legal liability for that. So if you do something wrong, or if they do something wrong, they could be sued by one of the participants in the 401k. So there are times that you could delegate something to someone else and they're not actually going to take any kind of liability. That if an employee or participant sues the 401k, that person would not be suable. However, you as the business owner, the trustee are. When you're choosing one of these players, you want to make sure that they're going to act as a fiduciary. So again, number one is the trustee or plan sponsor, and they typically take all of these roles and they are the one who is going to be held most liable for the 401k. The second one is what's called the third party administrator, or the TPA. This is typically the company that is going to make sure that the 401k is running legally and that it's following what the Department of Labor has said you need to do to have a 401k that's in compliance. Some of the large companies is Future Plan, Ascensus, and Pategra. There are many others around the nation that you could use, but those are the biggest ones. And their job is to make sure that the 401k runs smoothly and is following all of the new updates the Department of Labor is bringing forth. The third one is a record keeper. The record keeper are typically the names that you've heard of: Fidelity, Schwab, Principal. These are the large companies that you typically see sponsoring golf events. The record keeper typically keeps track of all of the accounts of participants and as the 401k as a whole. They can act as a fiduciary, but typically their job is to create statements, keep track of money going in and out, and sending out those statements to you and to the participants. The fourth player is what's called the custodian. This is the company that actually holds the money. And typically you don't like the custodian being the same as the record keeper, because you want to have someone holding the money and someone else giving the record of it. That way you know that the record should be pure. And one of the largest custodians that you've probably never heard of is a company called Matrix. I bet Matrix custodies more money than anybody in the nation, but you've probably never heard of them. That's because companies like Schwab, Vestwell, Fidelity, John Hancock, they're sending out the statements, but Matrix is the one holding the money. And the custodian, it's very important that you have a good custodian that's going to be able to protect the money, because they're the ones that are safeguarding it. The fifth player is typically your investment advisor. And there's typically two. You have a 321 or a 338. The 338 is the fiduciary, where they're going to actually create what is going to be in the 401k. And if an employee has a problem, they're typically the ones that are liable. Whereas a 321, they're just giving advice to you as the sponsor. And if an employee has a problem with the plan, it's going to be you as the plan sponsor that would be sued, as opposed to them. So a 338 is going to stand there with you and potentially be sued by employees. They're taking on a bigger risk. 321 does not. Now that we've discussed all of the players and talked about fiduciary versus non-fiduciary, let's get into the 6 main mistakes that I see plan sponsors or owners make with their 401k. The first mistake that I typically see is business owners treating it like a set it and forget it. Set it and forget it may be good when it comes to investing. Fidelity actually did a study that found that some of the best accounts in their portfolio were the ones where people forgot the money was even there. But when it comes to your 401k, it's important that you're continually looking at it and making sure that you have the lowest prices possible. Something that's been happening in the financial industry for the last 30 years is we've seen fees come down almost every year looking back 30 years. So if you just set it and forget it on your 401k, you may be paying more right now than you should be. Just the other day, I did a comparison for a prospect and found that they were paying 2.07% on their 401k. When we went and ran a benchmark study, we found that they could be paying 1.27. That's a 0.8% difference. And on $1 million plan, that's about $8,000 that we were able to save them. So having your 401k as a whole be just set it and forget it is not a good option. You need to be looking at this every single year, and best practices are every 3 years, you should go and do a benchmark test and see where your fees are and where they could be. The second mistake mistake that I see is people not knowing which of their providers are actually acting as a fiduciary. Most trustees that we work with assume that everyone on the team is a fiduciary, and they're shocked when they find out that there's certain people that are acting as a fiduciary and there's certain people that aren't. And they assumed that these people were all there in the trenches with them and liable if anything goes wrong. It's okay to use someone who's not a fiduciary. That just means you have to have extra insight into what they're doing and oversight on what they're doing. It's important for every plan sponsor to know which one of the players on the team is a fiduciary and which one is not, because that in the end could bite you. Because though it's unlikely, it is possible for a plan sponsor to be sued over their 401k, and you want to make sure that everybody on the team has an equal amount of liability and it doesn't all fall on you. Because at the end of the day, delegating tasks is completely different than transferring liability. Mistake number 3 is overpaying on record keeping fees and on investment expenses. Typically, these two are the most expensive because they are percent based. And if you don't continually look at the cost, these prices can rise faster than you expect. There are a number of companies who hide high expense ratio investments inside of the 401k as a way to make more money when a lower cost alternative is just as good. We like to compare fees to a rucksack. Imagine you and I were in a race and I had a 100-pound rucksack and you had nothing. If we ran a long race, it's likely that 100 pounds is gonna weigh me down. No matter what your health is, you're probably gonna beat me. The same thing with fees. Higher fees drag returns and make unhappy investors. So it's important, especially on the record keeping and on the investment expenses, that you keep those as low as possible, because that is where most people find the highest expenses in their 401k. Mistake number 4 is typically around designing the plan for the business as opposed to building it for the business owner. This is typically around how you structure the match. You can do a match or you can do a non-elective deferral, which means you put in the same amount for everyone no matter how much they put in. Depending on how many people participate and to what level, you can use one or the other, a match or a non-elective deferral, and have it work for you as opposed to them. Another way to do this is if you have high turnover in your plan, you can make it very restrictive for people to join so that you're not passing out as much money to people through match and non-elective deferrals. There's a number of things that you can do around this that most business owners just pass by and don't think about. One of the best ways I've seen to do this is to have a 1-year wait to join the plan and allow people to join quarterly. That means someone could work for your company for 13, 14 months and not be able to join until that 15th month. And the reason you do this is you want to create loyalty. And if people are coming and going in the first 6 months, why would you let them join your 401k? So it's important you design this 401k for you as the business owner as much as you can. Now, not every company can do this. There might be some where it doesn't work out for them to do this, but as much as you can, I think as a plan sponsor and a business owner, you need to work within those rules to have it work for you as much as possible. Mistake number 5 has to do with participant engagement and education. A lot of plan sponsors hire companies and expect them to do the education for their employees, and not every single one of them does it. So it's important as you're hiring a company, you ask them if they will help with education, and number 2, are they going to have you pay them to do that? Because if you have a company that is going to help with engagement and education, it's going to allow you as a business owner to be able to put away more money and make this plan work for you. Because if you're going to have a 401k plan, you want to make sure it's the best one possible. You want your employees to feel like it's actually a benefit to them and that it's not a hindrance. And one of the best ways you can do this is to have a third party, like an advisor or a record keeper, come in and talk about how awesome this plan is and how lucky they are to have it. You can't say that as the business owner as well as a third party can. So you want to make sure that you have good participation and education inside of your 401k. Mistake number 6 is not having your 401k as a business owner integrate with your personal investments. I can't tell you the number of times that I've talked to a business owner where their 401k does not make any sense compared to their personal planning. You want to make sure that those come together and work for your good, because at the end of the day, the business owner is typically the biggest participant in the 401k. And you want to make sure that your 401k and your personal planning are going to work together and allow you to build as much wealth as you possibly can. As a business owner, you want to make sure that every available opportunity inside of a 401k that you want to participate in is in there. That could be after-tax Roth contributions. That could be rollovers. It could be early distributions. Whatever it is, you want to make sure that whatever you want in your personal life, you have in your 401k. Because like I said, you're typically going to be the biggest participant in the 401k. So far we've learned the 6 mistakes that most business owners make in their 401k. We've learned about the 5 different players in the 401k. So I want to talk about what a good 401k looks like. A good 401k typically has a number of fiduciaries that you are delegating liabilities to. You're not just delegating tasks to, but you're actually transferring that liability from you to them. And you know that they're going to do it with their best effort because they're doing it in place of you. The second thing is you want to make sure that you have transparent fees that you have benchmarked at least every 3 years so that you know that you're paying the least amount possible for the maximum value possible. The third thing is making sure that you have intentional design, that what you need in your plan, you actually have. It's important as a business owner to do personal planning to know what you can do in your 401k to make sure that it helps you personally. Because like I said, the 401k shouldn't be built just for the business, it should be built for the owner too. And it's important to make sure that you have good participation and education for your 401k participants. So if you have a plan that has over $1 million of assets, you haven't had it benchmarked for a couple of years, you're unsure which players on the team are actually a fiduciary or not, we've actually created something that will help you. It's called the FeeShield analysis. And what we'll do is we'll take about 5 documents that are easy for you to find, you'll upload those to us, and we'll run an analysis for you. And we'll tell you, based on benchmarked fees, based on your size, whether or not your plan is up to snuff. And we'll actually show you where you could save money and where you could get more value. Because one of the biggest things I've found is companies charging fees but not giving the services. If that sounds like you, comment FeeShield and we'll send over a link that will allow you to see if your plan is as good as it could possibly be. Because at the end of the day, your 401k can either be a powerful tool or a silent drag on your wealth. And the best part is, most of the problems are easily fixable without having to blow everything up. Because like I said, there's 5 different players and it might be one of those 5 players that's the real issue. And the key is intentional oversight, not more complexity. I want you to start treating the 401k like it's a part of your business. Because I know you probably know your revenue, your profit, your expenses like the back of your hand. Let's start treating the 401k like that. If this video raised questions about your 401k, that's a good signal, and let's make sure we fix it.